The next session that we're doing is I'm going to bring up the things so we know what we're talking about. Session number 11. It's all about industry collaboration, something that's pretty near and dear to my heart. It's, you can see I got it right. I pointed in the right direction. Collaboration starts with conversation. So the podcast started episode 1, that was the line. And, we're at episode 180 something now. And it's still what we talk about today. And, I think that this session is a good kind of, catch all for those themes. It is presented by Genie Solutions, and it's great to be able to have speakers, not just James from Genie, who we'll bring on in a second, but other people who are no strangers to talking health tech either. So let me just find here. I'll bring on James and we can say hello. Hey, James, how you doing?
Hey, Pete. Great. How are you?
Yeah, really good. Really good. Looking forward to this session. For those that don't know James is the CEO of Clinical and Practice Management System and Software Genie Solutions, former general manager for MYOB. He's previously the executive chair for Genie, moved into the CEO gig a few years ago. And he's been on the podcast twice, episode 19, way back then, in person, and then more recently in episode 171. So do check out those episodes for more context and see how things have changed. Speaking of podcast OGs, let's bring on the other guys. We've got Chris and we've got Ben.
Hey.
Dr. Ben.
Hello.
He's the CEO and founder of Hot Dog, patient engagement platform that we all know and love, using cloud-based tech to improve patient and doctor communication. We've got Chris Smeed, co-founder and CEO of Brisbane-based software startup Cubico. It's an innovative platform dedicated to helping general practices gain insights into their practice, business, and operations every day. And they've both been on the podcast a number of times and been at these sessions, so you should know them by now. Thanks, guys. So, look, to set the scene for this session, we always talk about the importance of industry collaboration within talking health tech, but just to kind of rezone ourselves, what does that actually mean to you and why is it important? I might start with James and then we'll go Ben and then Chris for any comments.
Yeah, sure. And for us at Genie Solutions, it's more than just a nice to have, more than just something that's kind of a fluffy good thing. It's pretty vital and vital at a kind of existential level. So vital from a strategy perspective. So, our strategy is really to become a cloud platform, and we've invested tens of millions of dollars in building the technology, but that's kind of worthless unless we have participants on that platform. And people like Hot Dogs and like Cubico coming onto our platform are what makes it possible. So without collaboration, our strategy wouldn't be possible. It's also vital at a kind of cultural level. And our cultural foundation is our purpose, which is helping medical practitioners deliver better health outcomes. We know that's pretty aligned with what Ben's company and Chris's company is about. But we really couldn't deliver on that purpose without collaboration, and collaboration at a deep and pretty meaningful level. So absolutely vital for us, Pete.
No, thank you. Ben, did you want to build on that?
Yeah, I agree with what James said. It's not just a thing that's nice. It's a thing that's critical for healthcare. If there aren't entities like Genie, who are amazing at building great software that doctors can use that streamlines their workflows, if they can't use that strength and then maybe work with a Hot Dog, which is perhaps a little bit more focused on helping patients have the best possible experience, then how is it possible to use technology to link those two strengths together? And equally with what Chris offers, how is it possible to deliver really important business insights if they're not able to talk directly into a Genie? So I think collaboration, it's important both to work together to make our softwares talk to each other. It's also important that we talk to each other as people, because we know stuff about our own little neck of the woods, and that exchange of knowledge is also really important.
Yeah. And Chris?
Well, the joy of going last means that everyone always covers off the main things that I'd love to say. But thanks for that. But I think for me, it's we talk to our customers a lot, And I think that's what drives me as a ex-manager of a practice, is just what will make our customers happy and what will deliver better value for them. And the thing they ask for is that they want things together, and they want us to work well with people who are in their ecosystem and the people they trust. And I think when you have customers asking for collaboration, that is a great place to start, because it means there's going to be demand. It means you're going to delight people along the journey. And it also means that often you'll end up working with people who have similar values or similar beliefs in what you're doing. And I know when I start a conversation with a partner like James or Ben, and there's immediately that value alignment to the customer engagement, to delivering value, delivering amazing patient care, the dreams come pretty quickly and the outcomes are pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Like from a vendor perspective, I remember many a time in, sales conversation, just customer conversations. So often the question, the first question isn't necessarily how does the solution do this or how many clicks does it take to do this? It's does it integrate with this? And, that becomes more and more of like the first question that comes, because there's workflows that exist. We talk about it a lot. If I use this thing, does that mean I have to then reflect? Like I want the least amount of, disruption as possible. Right? So it's such an important thing, having that connection in the industry. If you're building something, doing it on your own is not going to, be overly impactful. Changing trends a little bit, thinking about, partnerships, which we're talking about, and the commercials often take a big focus in negotiations around partnerships, actually making a legitimate partnership, not just, that, hey, I know so-and-so and, we're on the same wavelength, like a proper one that's got rules in place. Often the commercials take up a big chunk of time in these negotiations with partnerships. James, from your perspective, do you think that given they take up so much time, is the commercials the most important aspect towards like what a successful and good relationship might look like in a partnership?
No, I don't think so. I mean, they're obviously important, but almost invariably partnerships are different to what you think they'll be. So you've got to have a relationship to be able to evolve. So that to me is particularly important, starting with a really core relationship and alignment around values, etc. The other thing that we just won't proceed on partnerships without is a clear view on customer value. So why is this and this together? Why does Genie and Hot Dogs, Genie and Cubico make sense? What does the partnership add value to our customers? Otherwise, we're just clipping a ticket. We're getting in the way for no reason, and we essentially become a tax layer rather than a value layer. And we're all about value. So that really clear view of value, I think, is the most important thing.
Yeah. And from your own experiences, Ben in particular, well established, but have been through that startup through to where you are now stage in terms of Hot Dog. Some of the most successful partnerships that you've had in terms of the commercials, have you found you pulling out contracts often or going back to the commercial side, or is there something more important to the partnerships from your own?
I think the way the mental system I have is you have to have a common goal. So you sort of, if you can work together with a partner or a potential partner and go, okay, if we work together for that, does that make sense? Then the partnership is a vehicle for that. And then the commercials are a vehicle for the partnerships. So the goal comes first, the forging the partnership comes second. The commercials is the third thing. I think what I've learned over the course of Hot Dog, since we're a tiny little startup in a garage, is don't go lightly into partnerships. They are a big deal. They take a huge amount of work. And so if you don't get that stuff right, if you don't really hunker down and have really honest conversations with that potential partner and make a really important decision of whether to proceed or not proceed, you can get you can just get embroiled in a very complex thing. So I think the commercials are important, as James said, but I think they're just a method of getting to where you want to go, which is the goal.
Oh, yeah. And Chris, thinking about the real world scenarios when partnerships go well, have you got any examples you can talk about how they've played out and the benefits that have brought?
Yeah. Look, I think just to echo something that James said before, that I've always found that the partnerships that are grounded in what Ben said, that are grounded in a great outcome, the commercials have felt natural. at the fitting at the pointy end. I remember talking to James and building the relationship around what we're doing with Genie and Cubico, and the amount of chats we had just to make sure we were delivering value, that we were aligned, our teams were going to work together. We got together and we really had a meal, but that brought things together. The commercials felt right through that process because we knew what we were both bringing to the table, and we knew what we were going to create together. And we knew that the difference it could make in our end users' experience was going to be something awesome. And I think it's sort of a natural progression. And I think the partnerships that haven't worked for us is where we've forced the commercials first, because you don't actually get a good understanding of who it is you're going to work with. And the drive for them is probably a commercial outcome, not what's in the best interest of the customer. And to me, if it's not in the best interest of our subscriber, the best interest of our customer, and the best interest of the clinicians, it's not going to be something that's going to be well received. And probably back to that taxation layer, will be landing on the top there. The other thing is that I'd also say that partnerships don't always have to be a massive, huge technical undertaking on day one. Our partnership with Hot Docs literally started with some knowledge-based articles being linked back and forth and some joint webinars that delivered amazing value for our joint customers. And that made our joint customers really happy. And that was, to me, an awesome partnership that then sets us up to do really well later on. So I think it's people first, commercials follow, and those relationships from those people lead to a good partnership.
Yeah. No, I love it. Look, there's some good actionable insights there. And thinking about, the outcome-driven partnerships, James, where to put it in perspective and see what it looks like in the real world in terms of Genie and the partnerships and the marketplace that's, being built obviously with companies like HotDoc and Cubico on there. What does that actually, I know we touched on it before, but in terms of what it means in the real world on a day-to-day for Genie customers, does it have a material impact for them, positive, negative, and also for, customers of HotDoc and Cubico too? Like you're thinking around the impact to end users and what it actually means for them.
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's really where the rubber hits the road in terms of it's all very well to say it's going to be value for customers, but how does it actually work? And for context, both Cubico and HotDocs integrate into our integrated cloud platform. So they integrate centrally, and then customers, including our desktop customers, can integrate back to that central integration. So that's a huge benefit for customers, particularly desktop customers. So they no longer have to have individual point integrations with these products. They can literally turn it on, and their integration back to our cloud platform can carry all those other marketplace integrations. So it really reduces technical complexity for our customers. And specialists are small businesses; they don't have IT departments. Super important for them to be able to do that. The other thing our customers want, it comes really, really clearly through in research, is they want certainty, and they want us to endorse, recommend, and make sure it's safe to integrate and connect with these third parties. So they know if these parties are in our marketplace, that we've done the due diligence, it's safe. They're reputable companies. The integrations are tested, and we stand behind those integrations. So that certainty and trust. We're not an open marketplace; we're a curated marketplace, and that curation brings a lot of value to customers. And then finally, customers are busy. They're busy saving lives and making people healthier, and sifting through trying to find the right solution, the right next add-on solution for their practice is not a top priority. So having all that in a central place and having easy access is really important for them as well. So a lot of value there, but also there's got to be value for Chris and for Ben, and being on that platform as well, to make that work.
Nice one. I can see in the chat, by the way, everyone that's attending live, feel free to drop any questions or chat. There's plenty that's going on that we've put up on the screen. But Maggie's asked a question, which is, how does the size of your partner impact decisions, i.e. with much larger, smaller organizations? Open to anybody, but if no one volunteers straight away, I'll throw to James, given that, he's working with vendors big and small here, but everyone's surely got a perspective on it.
Look, size is not the most important thing for us. We're looking for that customer value, and also, we're we've been around for a couple of decades. We've got 65% of all specialists using our software. And so, we see it as an important part of our kind of duty as a market leader to be encouraging innovation. So, we definitely look to partner with large and reputable businesses, but we love, great startups like Cubico. That's just bring something new and different and fresh. And without our support and really getting behind those really innovative companies, we won't see the innovation flow through to the wider industry. So, we want to be partnering with people that are safe for our customers to use, but we really want to be partnering with and bringing innovation through to our customers, which is, I think, one of the most important things our platform does.
Yeah,
I think just to echo that, I learned pretty quickly first. I think I'm the smallest one on the call at the moment, and I think when I started this journey 2 years ago, you actually didn't learn to just own the fact that you are the size you are, and the best partnership will be created from being transparent about that and being open and honest about it. If you come and sell smoke and mirrors to a partner, it won't be a good partnership. It's best off being honest and transparent. And I know I sat in the Genie boardroom with 2/3 of our team, and we're open and transparent about where we were and where we were growing. But I think working with awesome people who understand that journey also means that the partnership just doesn't produce product outcomes. Actually produces community outcomes. Then I can have a chat to James or some members of other partners that we have, and just put a problem out there that we're doing as part of growing. And that's pretty awesome when you're running a tech startup in the middle of a pandemic. Sometimes it can be pretty isolating because your team's going to look to you for guidance. And just having some people that bounce that off from different backgrounds and different ways of thinking can be pretty awesome. But yeah, own the size you are, and people will respect that.
The one thing I'd add is I don't think the size matters, but I do think maturity of product does matter. It's like Hotdog definitely gets inbound queries to partner up and, synergy here, synergy there. But if there's not like evidence of a happy customer, it's never going to be a conversation that proceeds in a really material way. But you can have just a handful of really happy customers. And if you point to that and just say, if we work together, that could accelerate this value and this level of happy customers, then it can really work.
No, it's such a real world thing too. I think the amount of conversations I've had as looking to partner, integrate a technology solution with, critical steps along that journey. Often the question is, well, who's our joint customer that we're going to be serving here? It's not just, I reckon this would be a good idea. It's, we're solving a problem, which we've talked a little bit about this in this session. And I like this theme, like Harrison pointed out, that honesty does build relationships. On the topic of honesty and question without notice, and putting those two things together makes it sound really kind of like...
Yeah, that's the scary moment there, right?
I mean, come on, it's near. It's we're all big, we can all handle it. No, thinking about partnerships, like one thing that... Yeah. One thing that happens with partnerships is that relationship and trust and everything, particularly when you're building things. Sometimes there's crossover. Sometimes there's, we do the same thing, but then we add value here. So how do you guys go about, thinking around having conversations with partners who might actually be competitors in like one area? Do you try and steer clear of it? Do you try and have lots of controls around it? Like, what are some of your thinking to help others who might be concerned about approaching other people within the industry about partnering and sharing and trying to solve some problems? Ben?
That's a good one. It's very complex. An example is like Hotdog does some stuff that Genie does. And in some instances, it's the right thing to do is just to say, look, like that's a space where, it doesn't make sense to sort of have competing solutions. But in other areas, it might make sense to work together even when there might be a bit of overlap. So, we found working with Genie, like bookings is that's something that Hotdog's, it's our sort of bread and butter. And it just like, it really made sense as a nice complement to Genie's existing offering. But where we have really good conversations about, where to next, and where does it make sense that Genie best plays, which speaks to their strengths. Where does it make sense that Hot Dog best plays? And I think just understanding yourself, and I guess we always think patient experience is our thing. Then you get to a point where it's like, all right, well, that thing that's probably a little bit more related to patient experience, that's where it probably makes sense for Hot Dog to try and participate. Whereas maybe that thing that's related to optimizing the doctor's workflow as they prescribe a certain medication, maybe not so much. So I think it's just like really understanding who you are, and being quite honest about where that area of overlap is, and talking and seeing what works for each party.
Yeah. James, any additional thoughts on top of that?
Yeah, and look, that makes sense to me. I think you've got to be pretty mature about competition in this day and age. And, I think it's probably difficult to have a commercial partnership with somebody where you compete at a core level. But where it's around the peripheral, I wouldn't put me off at all. And in fact, I think it's good to have a bit of competition around the edges, a bit of tension, positive tension in those partnerships. Ben and I often talk about, actually, James, we're better at this. You think you guys are doing a good job. We could do a way better job for your customers, and they're great conversations to have. And even, beyond commercial partnerships, I think having a relationship with competitors when you can, we're all, generally people want to do the right thing and, trying to make a buck and do the right thing for their customers. And particularly in this industry, and most people are in the industry for a bigger purpose than just commercial outcome. And so I found, having a reasonable relationship and with competitors where, there is an issue, you can pick up the phone and have chats, just important, and makes it a little bit more enjoyable too.
Yeah. Well, and it helps in times of significant change as well, and just day to day. And we've been through that for the past 18, 24 months. There's whatever solution we are, whatever we do, there's still the TGA, there's still Medicare, there's still the PBS. It's, the same kind of common theme. So banding together to be able to solve for some of these things, which makes, those industry associations really important, like the MSIA, but also, opportunities to join together and everything in between. Starting to think about winding out the session, but then making sure we cover on all the key points that we wanted to get across. Chris, you talked about, some of your advice for vendors looking to forge positive relationships, particularly who might be smaller, being open and transparent, and all of that. If there was something for vendors to take away from this session about forging positive relationships, is there any kind of other advice you can provide?
Yeah, we're all incredibly time poor, and we're all working hard to service our customers. If it's not going to work, just own it from the day one and just say it is or it doesn't. That's really important. If there's a roadmap that's going to overlap, we own it from day one, and they own it from day one, and it's a pretty awesome way to proceed. But I think too, not being, having an honest conversation as about who are the customer that's asked for it, and getting permission from that customer to use them in the conversation actually can move things forward really rapidly. We know a customer, that's their name, that's said they're happy for us to share the name with you. That can actually really turn it into something tangible when you're talking to a bigger vendor, because they know those customers as well. Is really important as well. And also just don't be I never networked much in my life when I started with this game. I ran a practice. I've never been to a tech function. I went to the first MSIA function down in Sydney pre-COVID, and just went and met a whole lot of people who I'd never spoken before and introduced myself. And I swear by the end of the night, I was exhausted and really didn't know what I'd done. But I tell you what, it opened a lot of doors for us. I was terrified at the time, but I'm really proud of it now, because it meant that we met people who we wouldn't have met before. And that's pretty cool. But it's sometimes being a nerd, not in your comfort wheelhouse to do something like that. So as much as going to meetups and doing virtual meetups and things like that can sometimes seem like a distraction from core business, to me, as a CEO, it's actually part of my core business. It's to be talking to people and working out what we're going to do.
And to that point, Chris, and I'll let Ben and James talk about their final takeaways in a second, but just to double click on that, something that I've learnt over time is as a tech vendor, sometimes it feels like, well, I should be out there speaking to more practice owners or hospital executives. And yes, you definitely should, but, and will detract from, well, why do I need to speak to other vendors kind of doing things? Is that kind of a distraction? But the amount of introductions, the amount of ideas and kind of things that have built off industry collaboration, which is what we talk about, it's so powerful and it's more meaningful. But like you said, to that point, having real customer examples to speak to is also really good too. Ben, any final takeaways from you for this session?
I reckon it's been pretty good. The one little tactic I think that can be good is if you're wanting to work with a vendor, like just like you would with the candidate, background references, pretty good. I think, everyone's got like their reputations, etc., but it can be nice to understand what it's like to work with them by having a conversation with someone who's gone through that experience before. And I think like it was covered at the start, but just that human relationship thing, that if there are going to be times where it's not going to be bed of roses. It's like partnerships are often quite complex. And if you do not have a strong relationship where you can have honest conversations and you can lean in when things get tough, it's going to be difficult to make it work. So really invest in that area.
Great advice. Thanks, Ben. And to close things out, James, any final thoughts?
Yeah, that's so important. There will be bumps in the road. Yeah, Ben's, I agree, that's the most important thing. But Hot Docs was the first product to integrate to our cloud platform. And there were some bumps in the road, man. And we Ben and I were able to pick up the phone and have really direct conversations, and that being super transparent, having a relationship that you can be just really open and honest with each other is just so important. And so as you're thinking about partnerships and you're excited, they're excited, it's all going to be great. Really think about what does it look like when things go wrong. Is this somebody like sit down and work through a problem with is a really important question to ask yourself.
Yeah. Well, look, James, Ben, Chris, thank you so much for your advice and your perspectives and sharing a bit about the partnership that you've already got, but also for others looking to do the same. Do stick around for more conversation. We've got the final session of the day. And thank you everyone in the chat too for adding to the conversation too.
Thanks, Pete.